Now joining me, the former head coach of the Pittsburgh Penguins, won a Stanley Cup with the New York Rangers in 1994, and he will be on the call tonight along with Doc Emmerich on NBC for Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals. It doesn't get better than this. Vancouver Canucks, Boston Bruins. Now joining me in Vancouver, that is Eddie Olczyk, Edzo, Zach Gelb, PureShovio.com. Thank you for joining me. How are you doing this evening?
I'm doing fine, Zach. Nice to be with you, and looking forward to puck drop right around the corner. Well, it doesn't get any better than this, a Game 7 in the Stanley Cup Final.
It really doesn't. And in 1960, in the World Series, the Pittsburgh Pirates played the New York Yankees. And I know you may not be a baseball guy and hockey is your forte, but the Pirates won that series in 7 games. They won every single home game in that series, winning on a minuscule margin like the Vancouver Canucks have the possibility of doing tonight. And the Yankees, when they would play at home, just like the Boston Bruins, would win on a lopsided margin by winning a game by the score of 10-2. How vital is home ice in the NHL like it was for the MLB in 1960?
I think before the Stanley Cup Finals, Zach, I think home ice certainly, is huge in this situation in a Game 7 to have that game in your own building, the matchups that are advantageous for you, and that will be the advantage tonight for the Vancouver Canucks and their head coach, Alain Vigneault. I'd say, coming into the final, I think it's really important, but we've seen it where home ice has been almost detrimental to some teams prior to the Stanley Cup Final. And both teams have been homers. Both teams have played a certain way, and the Vancouver Canucks, they've out-defended the Boston Bruins in the 3 games here in Vancouver. And for the Boston Bruins, they've completely annihilated and outscored the Vancouver Canucks in Boston. So long-winded, I would say it's not as important maybe earlier, but this series has certainly become a homer series, and if anytime you get a chance to play a Game 7, I think that you certainly want it on your home turf.
Now, how short of a leash will Roberto Luongo be on tonight in a crucial Game 7?
Great question. I think the type of goals that he will give up, Zach, if he does, you think about him, go back to round 1. He didn't start in Game 6 in Chicago. He came in relief, lost in overtime. Then he started Game 7 and played very well. Made a big stop in overtime on Patrick Sharp, who's one of the premier goal scorers in the National Hockey League for the Blackhawks, on a power play. And a couple of minutes later, Alex Burrows put the puck into the back of the net against Corey Crawford, and the rest is history. So I'd imagine that Roberto Luongo bounces back. Remember what happened after Game 4 in Boston in this final? He got pulled, he came back, the questions were out, he answered it very well with a 1-0 shutout. So I would expect him to play a real strong game, but to answer your question, Zach, I would say that depending on how the goals go in, would determine how long that bungee cord is for Roberto Luongo.
Now, what positive can the Canucks take from Game 6? After the first period, that game was pretty much over. The Bruins got out to a 4-0 start. But if you could take 1 or 2 positives from Game 6 that could possibly transpire over to Game 7 for the Canucks, what would they be?
Well, I like the way that they started for the most part in all 3 games in Boston. And, they got outscored, obviously, badly in those 3 games. But I like the way that they started the other night. Unfortunately, Mason Raymond got hurt 20 seconds into the game, so they had a shorter bench as far as their forwards, 12 dressed down to 11. So I think they could build off of that, and I know all of a sudden then the wheels came off, but you got to get a stop. You need your goaltender, Zach, to make a routine save 100% of the time and make the miraculous ones, as much as they can. So I think that the start they can take, their home ice, their crowd, the matchups will something that they can take in their favor, and I think the way that they finished the game as well. I think that they got that real early goal in the 3rd period. They had the Bruins on the run a little bit, weren't able to put any more dents in behind Tim Thomas. But I think there's a couple of positives, and look, you train all summer. You get to training camp last September. I think any player, any person involved in the National Hockey League would sign up on the dotted line if you could get a Game 7 in your old building to win the Stanley Cup, and I think that's the way the Vancouver Canucks have to approach this.
You mentioned that play by Raymond. Do you believe that warranted a suspension on Olczyk, and how big of a loss is he for the Vancouver Canucks? Who will look to replace him tonight?
No, I didn't think it was worthy of a suspension. Just one of those bad plays where Mason Raymond, who's a real quick forward, a guy that can really create with his offense, been quiet offensively, but a real quick skater, good forechecker. It's a big loss for Vancouver. I think Yannick Hansen will probably move up on the line, and Jeff Tambellini, former Michigan Wolverine, will get an opportunity to get in the lineup. I'm not sure where he's going to play. Of course, his dad, Steve's the general manager of the Edmonton Oilers right now, a longtime National Hockey League player. So I don't believe that hit, unfortunately, just was in a real bad spot and a dangerous injury for sure anytime that you're talking about the back. So hopefully Mason Raymond will be back before the start of next year.
Now, you missed Game 7 when you were a 1994 member of the New York Ranger. How tough is that knowing that your body can't go in the biggest game of your career and just having to sit there and take it all in?
Well, it's not easy, but you have to understand the big picture, and it is a team game, and you have a role, and you have to accept and execute, and you got to be ready, whether you're a healthy scratch or you're injured or banged up. You're there in spirit, and you're there as a part of the team, and it's a puzzle, and every puzzle needs different size of pieces, and certainly very difficult, but certainly enjoyed the winning end of it, and it's hard to believe that it was 17 years ago yesterday that we were able to win that Stanley Cup in New York for the Rangers for the first time in 54 years.
We're talking to Eddie Olczyk. He'll be on the call tonight on NBC alongside Doc Emmerich. And Eddie, the physicality in this series has just been unbelievable. You've had the whole finger taunting. You had the finger biting on Burroughs. You've had a lot of fights. You had a suspended player. How does a player keep his cool? Take me through the player mentality in the biggest game of his career. How does he stay focused and not do something that he's going to ultimately regret?
Well, it is a fine line, Zach, and it's great for debate, and it is a great question. You want to bring energy, but I think you have to be in control. You don't want to think too much, but it is an emotional time. You have to play to your strengths, and have a saying that everybody has a role. So everybody is a role player to a certain extent. Everybody's role is, different sizes. But two things you got to do: accept and execute. Regardless of the game, regardless of the stage, you can't try to do things you're not capable of doing. And sometimes, you'll just kind of come outside that box. So I think if anything else, you play to your strengths. And this is not a time to get even. This is not a time to look to settle a score. This is a time where you got to play whistle to whistle. You play hard. You play to win. You play for keeps, but you can't afford to be selfish in this situation.
Talk about the run the goaltender Tim Thomas has been on, and even if he does lose tonight, do you think he wins the Conn Smythe Trophy?
I do. Nothing leads us to believe that he's going to throw in a clunker. He has been terrific from really the start of the playoffs all the way through this Game 7 right around the corner. So I would expect that if it's a very close game, I expect a low-scoring game. If that is the case, I think that Tim Thomas will skate away with the MVP, the Conn Smythe Trophy.
Give me some X factor. Give me some keys to the game tonight, especially on the offensive side for the Boston Bruins.
Well, their success has come through the middle of the ice, and they've had great success at home about making plays in the neutral zone, the area between the two blue lines. They got to find a way to crack that of the Vancouver Canucks. They haven't been able to do it here in Vancouver in the first 3 games, but all it takes is that one shift. So I'm going to look to that area of the ice as being really key for the Bruins offensively tonight.
We're talking to Eddie Olczyk. He'll be on the call tonight. He's in Vancouver for NBC. Did you have any problem with Daniel Sedin said guaranteeing victory?
No. You get in this situation and you need your leaders to step up, and sometimes people get caught up in the moment, and you got to believe that we're going to win. That needs to be the mindset of each team, and somebody wants to step up to the forefront and do that. Hey, all power to them, and both those guys seem to kind of catch a second win the other night late in Game 6, so that's obviously a positive for the Vancouver Canucks.
Daniels had 104 points in the regular season. Henrik had 94 points in the regular season. But so far in this Stanley Cup Finals, they haven't played great. They haven't found a way to get the puck into the net. How do players go from being such a dominant force in the regular season and now not so much of a force in the Stanley Cup Finals?
Well, matchups have a lot to do with it, and there's not as much ice to be had in the playoffs. But at the end of the day, if you're the premier player and put one of those in those situations, you got to find a way. And I think for the best players on Vancouver, whether it's the Sedins or Kessler, or the best players for the Boston Bruins and Krejci, Lucic, and Bergeron, you got to find that ice and you got to make it work. And you got plenty of time to rest. And I would imagine both these coaches shortening up their benches. But again, I believe it to be a low-scoring game, and first goal may win it. And I think you got to find a way when you're the most skilled players. And again, it comes down to the coaches putting these players in a situation maybe to dodge a matchup every once in a while and get out there and get the job done.
What's the scene tonight in the locker room before the puck drops, like let's say 30 minutes before the game? Ferentz and Torres are two players on the opposing teams. They have both been to a Game 7 in the Stanley Cup Finals. Both of them actually lost. So what are the emotions going into a Game 7 in the locker room?
Well, I think you mentioned the word emotions. I think it's a very emotional time, and I can just speak from my experience of being with the Rangers in '94. I mean, there's a quiet readiness, but I think it's very emotional. Everybody understands the position you're in. There's a very good chance that none of these players will be in this situation again for winner takes all. I think you got to take it in. It is a game. It is entertainment, but it's an opportunity of a lifetime, and I think it's a very emotional time, and you have to breathe it all in and enjoy it, and know that this is reality television and entertainment at its very best.
Former Pittsburgh Penguins coach Eddie Olczyk. Eddie, a few more questions right before we let you go. I know you're pressed for time, and you were a coach in Pittsburgh. What would your speech be tonight to address these players before the game? What would you tell them? What would be your forte of a message here before this game tonight?
Well, we know how to play. We've earned this opportunity to get a Game 7. This is it. And there's a famous song written and sung by Kenny Loggins, which is a phrase, "This is it." And you think about the words, and I'd probably be have enough gumption to bring in one of my old 8-tracks. Zach, you're way too young to even know what that is, but I'd probably bring that in, and I'd probably let the boys listen to that song and maybe play a little video to it and get them emotionally charged. Not a whole heck of a lot to be said. This is an opportunity for us, and we've earned this chance, and we're 60 minutes, maybe plus, to be the best team in the world, and just remember that this is it, and go out there and leave it all out there.
As you mentioned, 17 years ago yesterday was the when the New York Rangers won the 1994 Stanley Cup. This one will last a lifetime, as Sam Rosen just screamed as the final seconds ticked off against the Vancouver Canucks, who ironically are playing tonight in a Game 7. Are you all annoyed about that Stanley Cup Finals and how the way the NHL handled it? In your case, they didn't want to put your name on the cup?
Well, that was the rule, and I understood that, but nobody was going to tell me, Zach, that I wasn't a part of that team, and very appreciative of my teammates and General Manager Neil Smith for lobbying to the league to petition, and regardless if it happened or not, I knew I was a part of that team, and but very thankful to have that name on the cup.
Now, you played in Winnipeg for a bunch of years, and Winnipeg finally gets their team back. Talk about their fan base, because it's just unbelievable. Why did this team ever move? 13,000 season tickets sold out in 30 minutes. That's just mind-boggling stuff.
Well, Winnipeg is certainly a National Hockey League city. It doesn't have the numbers as a lot of cities in the National Hockey League, but it's a great place to play. It's a great place to raise a family. I enjoyed almost 6 seasons in Winnipeg, and couldn't be happier for the people there. And they're hockey crazy there, and it's unfortunate for the people of Atlanta, but I think they're going to do extremely well, and it'll be great to get back to the city of Winnipeg.
On the way out here, as we're talking to Eddie Olczyk, break down this game for me tonight. Who do you expect to win? Who do you think hosts that Stanley Cup trophy by the end of tonight?
Well, I picked Vancouver at the start of the series. I'm not going to jump ship now, but I do believe, Zach, that the first goal is so crucial in this game. I expect a low-scoring game, as I mentioned to you a little bit earlier, and I think home ice stays the course, and I think matchups are such an important part. And to this point, neither team has proven that they could get it done on the road, and I think for another 60 minutes or more than that, I think the Vancouver Canucks somehow find a way to skate the Stanley Cup around on their home ice.
Eddie Olczyk, Doc Emrick tonight on the call. NBC Stanley Cup Game 7. It doesn't get better than this. You have the Boston Bruins going up against the Vancouver Canucks. Eddie, thanks so much for your time. I appreciate it. Let's hope to do it again real soon.
Thanks, Zach. Thanks for having me.